everyone. Welcome to Talks at Google. Today it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Sir Ben Kingsley and Patricia Clarkson for Learning to Drive. Let's welcome them. Anywhere you like, as long as it's on stage.
Is this working? Oh, it's working. Hello. Woohoo. We're at Google. Hum diggity diggity.
So thank you so much for joining us. Your latest film is Learning to Drive. Do you mind telling us a little bit about it?
How many of you have seen it? Oh, that's a good start.
Oh, good.
And the rest of you will see it when it comes out this
Yes,
Friday,
you
right?
will. You will flock and you will take all your friends. And you will scream and cheer when our names come up on the screen. It's a beautiful story about two separate worlds coming together. It's a woman, a fierce intellectual, a New York book critic, who pretty much has everything but forgets to realize she has everything. And her husband walks out on her, and into her life comes this exceptionally beautiful and patient and kind and admirable man.
Emphasis on exceptionally.
And sexy and amazing and extraordinary and one of a kind. And through the process of learning to drive, she's at 50. She's a hardcore New Yorker, never driven. She learns to drive for the first time at 50. And of course, she has the one and only Sir Ben Kingsley as her teacher, and she learns, and they learn many things because he's on a new path. They both set out on new paths, and the paths collide and come together in I think, unique and surprising ways.
I think those of you who have seen the film will allow me to describe the film as a poem. That's how I have been referring to it all day as a poem. And at the beginning of our poem, we see a woman in complete distress, almost completely destroyed by the disintegration of her relationship. And at the beginning of the poem, let's call it the first stanza, she hates men. She'll never trust men. She's lost her faith in men. Now, for those of you who've seen the film and those of you who haven't, I will go right now to the end stanza of the film, where because of her relationship with this man, she's able to say something very special. Now, the heavens will, in our poem, the heavens will look down and see a woman in great distress who's lost her faith. And the heavens say, I know what we'll do. We'll send her this warrior, this pure man.
Silent word.
That's what she needs. And by bringing them together in, as Patricia will tell you, a very confined space, a car, a little vehicle, which is rather like the ferry in the archetypal ferryman, who will meet you on one bank of the river, put you in his little boat, and take you to the other bank of the river. But on your voyage, you realize as you step off his boat, I've learned something. Something's changed in me forever. The gift of the ferryman is that he is or she is a great teacher, a great giver of life, and a shower of the way. So when we get to the end of our poem with this particular ferryman, she's able to say, from utter devastation at the beginning, you are my faith. So that's a remarkable journey that lasts the whole length of the film. It's very delicately handled, verse by verse by verse, if I can continue calling it a poem. And the unlikelihood of the pair is their salvation. I honestly think that if Wendy had said to somebody in our office, I'm in great distress, what shall I do? She'd got all the wrong advice, particularly from your sister. In the film.
That's why I
and I am in the throes of, in anticipation of an arranged marriage, and learn from my friendship, he learns from his friendship with Wendy how to bring his Punjabi wife who's terrified of New York out into the world. And I think how to love her. I think he learns how to love her through Wendy too. So
Yes.
it's quite an extraordinary journey.
But I think at the end of the day, it is a beautiful story about adult friendship, about true, profound meaning and of a real friendship, and a friendship that has changed them for the rest of their lives, and it ends in just the right place. I don't want to ruin anything. It ends in just the right. There won't be a sequel. Well, if there's enough money, but no.
Well, let's talk about faith for a moment, because that is such a huge part of it. And I think the character of Wendy is definitely someone who, in the beginning, it's just completely lost her faith.
In men, not in the religious sense. I mean in men.
In men, but also I think isn't there a moment where she just goes like, I don't believe in God, I'm mad at your God.
Yes, but I
In
think
the
that
car,
less,
yes, but that's...
you know, I don't think Wendy was ever a particularly religious woman, but I think faith in general, I think she's lost trust and belief in a lot of life.
Right.
Suddenly, a woman who was often the smartest woman in any room, top of her game, a major critic in a tough city, and suddenly she is forced to go from a incredibly, very valuable intellectual life to this visceral life, this life that is uncomfortable for her to be in. And she has to navigate her way out of that. And it's a journey I relished. It was not easy, but it was a journey I relished taking.
I think that they are connected by words, their love of words.
Yes.
My father in the Punjab was a university professor. My character's father was a university professor. And I too, my character too, Darwan Singh, was a university professor in the Punjab. And he has to migrate away from his homeland at terrible loss, but he does take with him in his DNA that need to teach, that need to hand something on, that need to slightly alter for the better the lives of others. So there is a commonality in their intelligence, yes. And that's very, very important. It is a film dealing with two people of equal intelligence, yes, who meet, greet, and salute one another,
yes,
as loving friends.
It's nice to see a film about smart people.
It's wonderful to see that, but it was interesting for me to see this character and your character, who his faith is such a whole part of who he is, and he's very unshaken in it for most of the time. But then there's this event in his life with this impending marriage that maybe does have an effect on that. And so, what was that journey like for you?
I was very fortunate when I was filming Gandhi in India to have a Sikh bodyguard driver who drove me to the set every day, who protected me on set all day, and drove me home in the evening. And he was a man of amazing stillness, very protective, and I certainly drew upon my acquaintanceship with him over those months on my portrait of Darwan. And I think that we must be careful of the word faith. I think that his faith allows him to be still. It is not a faith that needs to be hysterically demonstrated. It's not external. It's not externalized. There are scenes in the temple of great stillness and dignity, and family unity and enormous respect. We were allowed to film in a Sikh temple not long after Sikhs were shot in their own temple. So that was a huge gift. And by osmosis, by being with my wonderful driver bodyguard, by being with my one or two Sikh friends with whom I'm quite close, and then of course our dear Harpreet Singh Tour on the set, who put my turban on every day, quietly. May I make gentlemen? I would like to make forgive me if I'm wrong. I'd like to make a slight generalization. I feel that if you know one Sikh gentleman, you know them all, because there's something extraordinary consistent about their moral compass and their ethics. Would you agree with that? Good. I can go home.
Thank you. But no, I must say, as you know, I was I've been attached to this film for a very, very long time, and I love the character of Wendy. But what I will say is, and this story and this journey, but one of the most beautiful aspects of shooting this film was getting to know the Sikh community, getting to know Harpreet, and an awakening to this incredible and beautiful culture, and the fact that they embraced this film and embraced Sir Ben. Well, who wouldn't want Sir Ben playing you? Come on. Mm-hmm. But that was valuable and incredibly comforting for all of us with the film, that we had their blessing, so to speak, with this film. And but it was a beautiful lesson and journey for me, one that I will carry for the rest of my life, getting to know the Sikh community. It's a very, very beautiful thing.
Whilst Patricia and I have been talking about this film, retrospectively revisiting it, I find that I have many thoughts about the film that I didn't have while I was shooting it. I've just had one sitting here right now.
God.
And it's this.
Hold on.
And it's this. Wendy, the very modern meets the very ancient.
Yes.
He who will not cut his beard,
Yes.
he who will not cut his hair, he who will always wear a turban, and he who carries a sword. It's as if he's traveled thousands of years. Sikhism hasn't been with us that long, but hundreds of years to be with you. Yeah. And you learn some ancient truths from him, and I learn some modern truths from you, and I hope to impart them to Justine, my arranged bride.
Yes.
Yes, they're equals. Yes, it's in New York, but the heavens look down to someone in distress and say, she doesn't want a modern guy. Let's not send a modern guy.
No.
Let's send a warrior from the past. And I think that's just hit me sitting here.
But you are. I mean, that's the beauty. And what I love also about the film is, as strong as the Sikh community and the beautiful life that is present in this film, at a certain point, this film is really just about two adults. At the end of the day, it is about two people who of different cultures, but even the cultures fade, and it really just, at the end of the day, is about two people finding a better life and a better self. And I think that's what cheers me most about this film, is that it is, at the very core, a film about humanity and how we can cross divides in subtle and simple ways. And I hope you find that and see that in the film.
That's a wonderful point. And as you mentioned, it's about two adults, but at least in the US, like, learning to drive is it's kind of a landmark of this journey into adulthood. You know, getting your driver's license is something I think every 16 or 18 now year old wants, and it's this badge of honor. But these are two people who've passed into adulthood, you know, and now they're kind of facing these maturity decisions that are, it's probably putting them back into this kind of like teenage place of mind almost. You know, did that play into it at all for you guys? Did you see that as a part of the journey, or was that just kind of a...
Oh, yes. I mean, they're truly learning to drive.
They both learn. The enormous amount of information. Think the number of times Daravan Singh asks Wendy questions. What shall I give her? How can I talk to her? I mean, so many questions, subtly disguised or quite overt. So the two-way flow between them, both learning, bringing their mature minds to baby steps.
But it is also, for me, the real, true physical act of driving again. As Patty, my driving had lapsed. Sadly, I was born and raised in the great city of New Orleans, and my father taught me to drive at 16. and I was a driver, and slowly as I became more and more a New Yorker, became more Wendy, and I lost my ability to drive. And when we arrived at this film, I really had not been driving, and Sir Ben had to trust that I could drive him through the streets of Manhattan. I thought, oh my God.
I'm still here.
I said, oh my God, I'm driving Gandhi through the streets of Manhattan.
And I was very passive and I was very calm.
But through the course of shooting this film, I became a better driver. And through the course of shooting this film, I realized so many things that Wendy had to learn. I mean, it was life and art mixing in
Absolutely.
in vast and fabulous and precarious ways. Driving over the Queensboro Bridge.
That was you. That was you.
Everyone was like, didn't you have a tow truck? Didn't you have a stunt double? I was like, you're looking at her. But in the course of shooting this film and truly learning to drive again, I learned all the lessons that Wendy had to learn, I had to learn to listen, to look, to pay attention, to be present, to take in the world, to be selfless, to
read the signs, isn't
to
it lovely?
read the signs, to read the signs.
Beautiful.
And I
beautiful
realized, oh my God, I haven't read a sign in so long.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked up and taken in the world right in front of me in so long. And it was a very powerful experience for both of us shooting this film.
In our journey as actors, when life and art, when they do coalesce, it's quite an extraordinary feeling and journey. It's beautiful, and it's at its best. It should always be like that.
Yes, you always hope for that when you're shooting a film, to come out the other side a better person, having more knowledge, maybe having a new lover. You always want something.
I did not move my arm.
I mean, you want to have taken, you want at the end of this journey. But I mean, I'm making light of it. But it was truly a profound experience for us at the end of this film. It was difficult to leave them behind. We went to do a talk at AOL, and we saw the end of we saw the trailer or something together.
Yeah.
And we both thought, oh, we missed Wendy
we missed
and Darwan. We missed them. I have a very dear friend who saw the film the other day, and he loved it. He's an academic. He's brilliant. And he said, I want to have coffee with Wendy and Darwan. Not you and Sir Ben. Wendy and Darwan.
What we hope as actors, because I'm skeptical of messages, I have to be honest. And I think that sometimes if you respond to a question regarding what do you hope for, what's the message of, it clutters you. So all I would like to say in terms of this film, and I know Patty agrees with me, is that audiences who see the film will have thoughts pop in their head that they would not have had they not seen the film. That's all we can hope for.
That I think that's what we can hope for. That it somehow makes you think about something you hadn't thought about before. And, I know that this is a film starring two people who are not 25, but I will tell you something. I've had my nieces and nephews, I have 10 of them. Oh my God. It's why I didn't procreate. It's enough. There's enough of us. And they were surprised at what they felt about this film. And they range from 25 to 34 or something. And so I think this is a film that can resonate with people of all ages and all cultures and all backgrounds. And we've played to very diverse audiences, and they have responded. So I hope when you see it, those of you who have not seen it, I hope it takes you somewhere.
When I think I told you this story. When we were with the Hollywood Foreign Press, gosh, was that yesterday or the day before? Where are we now?
Yes, we're on a whirlwind tour. So Ben, we're in.
It says it there. Google got it.
Just the internet.
We're in Palo Alto.
One of the very last interview of the day, and we'd done several, was a young woman, probably in her late 20s, early 30s, from Belgium. And I started, as I introduced our talk, as I introduced myself to you, I started with that idea of the poem and of the woman in total distress, lacking faith and trust in men, and the heavens looking down and sending her the warrior. And I looked up whilst I was talking. Tears were streaming down her face. And this was on camera. And I said, for the sake of you and I in this conversation and story, please keep that in your broadcast. She said, well, there's no choice. Of course, I will keep it in my broadcast. These are the generation that you're alluding to. She found it deeply, deeply touching. It just hit a nerve in her, which is very gratifying. It's great to make girls cry.
I don't have any Oscar nominations. I can't cry right now. I'm sorry. Man, I don't know how to follow that up. That was amazing. I'm gonna talk about New York for a moment, because
Okay.
New York is a wonderful city, and it's also one of the places that, it is terrifying to drive in. Like, I used to live there, and I do not want to drive over the bridge. Like, I was terrified for you guys in that moment. But it's also one of the only places in the world where I could probably see something like this happening, with this culture kind of meshing, and where, yes, it's just totally normal for all of these, groups to cohabitate and stuff like that. But there's also this kind of moment of discrimination and raids on where Darwan is living. I think it's something people often forget about. That happens. I think maybe we focus a lot on other immigration issues, but it's one of those things where you think, oh, New York melting pot. No.
Very big issues.
And you guys got to shoot in New York City. So what was, did that add extra to it? Actually getting to shoot in front of a green screen, as you mentioned, it adds a lot.
No, I mean, see, we had, when I was first trying to get this movie made, everyone was like, well, could we shoot this in Toronto? I was like, oh, yes, let's drive around Toronto. Someone actually said, I love this film if you cut all the driving scenes. I will help you make this film, but I think we have to lose the driving scene. I was like, thank you, sir. Thank you. Good day. But yes, New York was essential and a crucial part of it, and the cacophony of New York is only can be the cacophony of New York, and the streets and the people, and it was essential that we were there. But yes, you faced certain challenges every day as
Life and art.
Life and art
It just
together.
sharpens your resolve to make a beautiful film and to rise above it. I mean, and a little bit of Darwan was, taught me, because I didn't hear this abuse that was yelled at my character just before our most crucial scene, but some of my colleagues on the set did. And they were very distressed. And I said, come on, tell me. I heard something. What happened? And they were very reluctant to tell me. But in fact, two guys shouted across to me whilst I was in the dealership, helping Wendy buy her red car. And they shouted, he should be buying a fucking camel, not a fucking car. And
Are we allowed to say that?
Yep.
It's very distressing for the crew. But actually, I thought, well, Ben, that's why you're here.
This is why we're making the film.
Come on, that's why you're here.
Yeah. No. So you think that all of New York is advanced. You want to believe you live in a city that ignorance has escaped ignorance, but it hasn't, and it's ever present, and it's the biggest problem in my opinion that we face in the world today.
So you've talked about this earlier, but you guys actually were in a car that creates a certain sense of intimacy for characters, for actors, and you've also worked together before. So was it easier to kind of slip into this relationship between these two characters, or?
But here's a paradox. Because we worked together so intimately.
I don't know if you saw a movie we did called Elegy. We played lovers in that film.
You did move your hands on that one.
Seriously, I had the first day.
Go on, Patty, go
Make
for
up
it.
my life. I met Sir Ben, and then we got naked and shot. There's the sex scene. That was the first thing we shot. I mean, Isabel just threw us together.
Best way to do it, I think.
Yes, it was.
Before lunch.
Yeah. But it did. It bonded us. It gave us it gave us a lot.
And paradoxically, what it allowed us to do, because we trusted each. Those scenes demand huge trust and respect from one another, and we therefore knew the level of trust that we had and will tap into as actors. Therefore, sitting in the car between takes, we hardly spoke.
We kept very separate. Because we knew one another so well, we have great trust, but we wanted to make sure that Sir Ben and Patty didn't blur the lines with Wendy and Darwan. That it was because the beauty of this film is it's very subtly orchestrated and charted and finely etched of when the lines blur with the two of them. And we had to be very careful that those lines blurred in the appropriate times. And so we could trust one another enough. It was a very quiet shoot. We would sit often in silence in the car in between takes.
That would trouble some people. They'd say, "Are you okay?
Are you okay? Is
Have I
everything
upset
okay?
you?"
Is it really? Yeah. And we
but
were
no,
like,
we
no.
completely trusted. We could be totally in repose and still between takes, which was a great gift. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So some of the other cast members aren't here, obviously, but what was it like working with them? Because a lot of them you've worked with before. Was that just an easy way to kind of also slip into this sort of familiar relationship?
I thought it was beautifully cast.
It was, yes. I mean, having been with this film for so long, I had, dreams of the people I was hoping, and I love Jake Weber, who played my husband. We did this little film called Wendigo together that was this little tiny horror film directed by Larry Fessenden. We did it many, many years ago, and I thought he was just the perfect mix of handsome and academic and just a fine actor, a really fine actor. And so it was a real treat to get to work with him again. And Grace Gummer, I met her 6 years ago, and 6 years ago I said, if and when I get this movie made, I want you to play my daughter. And thank God she still looks 18. Her good genes. I was like, thank you. But she's a beautiful, stunning young actress, and I was thankful that she did this. And you got to work with gorgeous Sarita.
Yeah, it was terrific.
Gorgeous,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Those were actually some of my favorite and almost uncomfortable scenes, just in the sense that I felt like he wanted so badly for her to fit this kind of archetype or mold that maybe Wendy was influencing a little bit.
He raced much too quickly ahead in his expectations.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was wonderful just to see someone who was willing to step back and try.
Yes.
And
she goes to college, and she is led out into the world by her friends, by Marta, who meets her in the supermarket and then goes to her house. So she does take those she in turn takes those baby steps to being a liberated New York woman, and I think she'll make it. I think she'll do it.
She had some gumption,
and with the support of her husband. Yeah.
Yes.
I think, you get a sense with Sarita that she can kind of do anything.
Yeah, she'll cope.
But I think the thing for me with those was this interesting non-existent language. It was a language barrier, but it wasn't a language barrier. And the scenes were very interesting to watch in the sense that, it's somebody who wants this other person so badly to communicate, yet is having trouble communicating maybe the emotions and what they want out of their partner themselves. I don't know if you felt that way at all, or
Well,
it's just my audience
that
observation.
is just a beautiful acting exercise where you have a very narrow corridor of communication between the two characters, and therefore, as actors, you have to be so accurate into getting that on film down that tiny parameter of communication. It's absolutely
This is
glorious
also where beautiful
opportunity.
Isabelle Coixet, our director, that we both worship and we love her. She's Catalan, and she shoots with such delicacy and intimacy. She's the operator, like Soderbergh, and there's very few directors who are operators, but she gets behind that camera. And she's able to, you're never quite sure sometimes where the camera is. So the scene is just about life. It's not about blocking it out. She rarely blocks something out in a very strategic way. And it gives these scenes a delicacy and a true intimacy. And that we owe to Isabelle.
Puts the camera in exactly the right place every single time, so that we as actors never have that anxiety where you wonder whether or not the director has seen what you're trying to do.
You should get it. It wasn't
That happens sometimes. They miss it completely.
They miss it.
Or they bring their own agenda and their own narrative, and they're not filming what's there. And Isabelle films what's there.
And she never misses anything.
Not a thing. Wonderful.
It's crazy. To watch her shoot, it's art. She puts the camera on like a bungee cord, and it swings in and out silently. It's something to behold, and it's her own style.
Yeah.
And the DP is behind her, and she starts to move and swoop the camera on this, like almost like a little arm, and it's hanging on a.
It's engineering and art.
It's
combined,
engineering
isn't it?
and art, and it's something we love. Yeah.
So we'll take audience questions in a moment if anyone wants to line up. So I have to ask, do you yourselves drive? And if so, what was one of the memorable moments about learning to drive?
Well, because I become a commodity, therefore I'm driven. I'm driven to the studio. I'm driven to here. I drive less and less and less. Where I do drive is in Oxfordshire. It's the English countryside, narrow country lanes. It happens to be farming country. So if I'm running an errand in my vehicle, it's a long wheelbase Land Rover. It's a really tough, beautiful car. I'm running errands. They're working. They're moving tons of hay. They're moving livestock. They've got combine harvesters. I've learnt to be alert to the narrow corners. Anything could be horse riders. Anything could be coming around it. I've learnt pull in. They're working. Let the guys pass. I love the etiquette of driving in the English countryside. Is really something beautiful.
I don't really drive anymore. I drove for this movie, and I joked with my father that maybe when I come home to New Orleans next time, he'll teach me to drive again. He said, I don't think so, Patty. There's not enough red wine in the world.
And I think my final question before we head to the audience is, what do you think was the most rewarding part of? Was it just getting this film made for you, or has it been the journey afterwards? Or
It's telling the story to people is a joy for me. We're storytellers, and to have people touched by, moved by, amused by, entertained by what we do for a living is absolutely glorious.
There was one moment more early on when we were shooting, like I said, this has been a long journey for me to get this film made. And one day, and pretty much the first day, and when we were both in the makeup trailer, and I was sitting there and I was talking about Wendy and my hair and what we were doing in makeup, and I looked up and I saw Sir Ben in his beautiful turban, and he looked so extraordinary. And there he was Darwan. And I looked at the two of us, I thought, oh my God, we're here. He's here, Darwan is here, Wendy is here. We made it. We got this movie made. It was a remarkable moment that I'll never forget.
Wonderful. Come on, guys. Any audience? Yeah, we got one.
I have a question. I wondered, you've played these extraordinarily diverse roles recently, and I wondered if you had anything that was discovered about yourself during these roles of playing people from other cultures.
You know,
that was of note.
What I discover is not necessarily anything from the character I'm playing, because my job as a portrait artist is to put oil paint on the canvas. In other words, it's pretty well a one-way street with some tiny exceptions. But what I learn about being an actor out in the world is the politics of the film set. Because I can tell you now, every version of human life is alive and well and present on the film set. And it's not just Patty and I, a lot of people behind the camera who are trying to make something beautiful with you and for you, and sometimes they really get it wrong. We won't mention the department that consistently got it wrong, but boy, did that tax our patience. What it teaches you is to read the signs from the film crew, patience, and understand that everyone is giving it their best shot. And I learn a great deal from my journey as an actor, not necessarily from the characters I play, but from the process itself.
Thank you.
Hi, it's been a pleasure listening to you, and I promise I'm going to watch the movie, but I'm going to take this just one chance to say to Sir Ben, thank you so much for your great acting in the movie Gandhi. It's one of the most popular movies in India, even today. And I have two kids who are a bit small right now, but when they grow up to an age, I'm going to play this movie for them because it tells so much about India and about the great man. So thank you so much. And I want to thank the organizers here for giving this opportunity. Thank you. All the best. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Patty, you've sort of mentioned a few times that you've been wanting to do this movie for a long time. It's been something that's been on your mind. So, what was it that gave you the idea of wanting to create this movie?
Well, there was a beautiful essay by the great Katha Pollitt. I don't know if you know who she is, but she, I'm sure some of you do, but she had this beautiful essay, semi-autobiographical, in The New Yorker many, many years ago. And I read it, and it resonated with me even many, many years ago. And I thought it was at once the humor and the pathos in equal dose, and sometimes simultaneous. I just was taken by it, and I then found out that a woman named Dana Friedman had optioned the story, turning it into a script, and that Sarah Kernishin had written this script, and then they came to me, and I thought I died and gone to heaven. I said, "Oh my God, I know this story. I love this story." That was a long. I joked that I was an ingenue when they first brought me this script, but I just loved. I thought the meeting of the minds of Katha Pollitt and Sarah Kernishin. I thought she captured this story, the essence, the heart of Katha Pollitt in the story, and yet she opened it up and made it her own, and a beautiful journey of these two people. And so that last line I say, pretty much the last line I say in the film, you're my faith, and I had to remind myself of that line almost daily, that I had to have faith that someone would believe in this project, that all the movie gods would bring everybody together at the right moment, and that some person would say yes. And that's what happened. A man named Gabriel Hammond and his brother Daniel Hammond were starting a new production company, and they're young, they're like your age. And these young men could have chosen any film. I mean, a film with starring hot young stars, you know, with models in bikinis running around. I can't believe I just reduced. But these young men chose to make this film. I went to dinner with Gabriel Hammond, and we had a 3-hour dinner at my hangout. I live at this restaurant called Cafe Lou in New York, and he met me there, and we sat in my booth, and we talked for 3 hours. We never once talked about the movie. Mm-hmm. We talked about his life, his mother. His mother had passed away. He loved the movie Pieces of April. And we talked about life and love and growing up. And at the end of that 3-hour dinner, he said, I want to make this film. Mm. He said yes. Mm. It just took one person.
May I ask a question? You talk about reading this article in the magazine. How did that come about? Did you just pick up the magazine?
No,
buy it?
I'm obsessed with the New Yorker.
Guided towards it?
No, I'm obsessed with the New Yorker. I read the New Yorker. It's an addiction. But a very good addiction.
Rather like the manuscript that Wendy leaves in the back of the cab. Yes. Is there a possibility that you might have missed reading that story? Just, you may not have got the New Yorker on that additional.
Yes, that's very possible.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah, that's the important thing. Yeah.
I read it and I saved it.
There you go.
I had boxes of the New Yorker. I wouldn't throw them out. People said, Patty, take the New Yorkers out of your hands. Just give me the New Yorker. Give me. Mm-hmm. But I did happen to read this story, and that's really how it happened. Yeah. But it wasn't that unusual because I always read the New Yorker.
Right.
Hi, thanks for coming out today.
Sure.
I had a question sort of on acting mythology. So, it seems like you're both very in tune with these characters that you play. And, as the completion of the movie ends and you move on away from it, when do you separate yourself from those characters you played and sort of become Sir Ben and Patty again and move on to other roles?
When I was at school, I studied physics. And there is a law in physics which confronts elasticity. And the law says that if you stretch something beyond its point of elasticity, I have a physicist here nodding on my left, it will not shrink back to its original shape. So although we throw ourselves into our roles, we have developed a technique. We have developed boundaries, which we alluded to earlier, and there's something in our DNA, in our reactive bodies that says, if you go there, you will have passed your point of elasticity and you will not shrink back. And fortunately, I know it doesn't always happen. There are some actors who will get terribly distressed. They resort to drugs, to alcohol, to compensate, to try and get back to cope with this rather dangerous thing that we're playing with. We are playing with that point of elasticity. And for me, because I have a rather forensic approach to my work, I know that it is shrinking back. I can feel it. Even, after every take. After every take, it has to come back. For me, some people like to stay in the stretched zone all day. I come back to me and then take a jump to the next take.
I think For me, as I work the emotional life of a character, what is essential for me is to marry it to the emotional life that I have. So I have that well available and readily available. So it's difficult at the end of each day when you're doing very emotional scenes. It's never easy, but if it's easy, you should. I've often thought if it's ever easy, I shouldn't be doing this. But I will say, when a movie is over, there's a small part of you, for me, that's always been given away that you'll never get back. And it is, it's just, that's part of that comes with a job in a way. It's a small little, there's something you've given away. There's something you've sacrificed in some way for this. And it just, it happens. And I've now learned to find peace with that and realize that, the recovery process is slow, but it will come. But it is mournful when you end these projects. It's for me. I just finished doing The Elephant Man. I did it on Broadway, and then I took it with Bradley Cooper to London. And I just closed the play 2 weeks ago, and here I am in Palo Alto. And I haven't quite mourned the loss of Mrs. Kendall and that whole journey with The Elephant Man, because I came straight into doing press, and maybe that's good. Maybe I won't have that mournful process. I don't know. Maybe when I get home to New York after all of this, I'm going to sit in my bed and drink bourbon. I don't know. No, I think I'm probably going to do that.
It'd be a celebratory bourbon,
Okay, celebratory bourbon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Patty mentions the word sacrifice in response to your question, but also there's another word that you could also apply, which is that you share. And you share with audiences, and that's why that young woman cried, because you are getting amazing responses from people who are sharing what you do. So a sacrifice would go into the vacuum. Yours doesn't. It hits people.
No. But it's
very life affirming.
Well, yes. You give up a part of yourself for the greater good.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing. When it works. Yeah. There are times when it. No, in this film, the response we've gotten has been. It's been. Yeah.
It's been great.
I have a question. So I guess one of the things that being accomplished actors gives you is a very strong platform to have influence across the world on masses. I'm a Sikh, and I want to tell you, this is a movie that we celebrate in our community. One of the things it does is it helps some of the lesser known religions kind of highlight. And the question I have for you guys is, do you at a personal level have a humanistic goal of when you play such roles, does it satisfy an innate desire to do something for the humanity, that cuts across geographical lines, country lines, and it's going to be celebrated perhaps more so in a very smaller section of the world, and still be able to sort of have the influence?
I think that we are distant descendants from something tribally absolutely essential. And that is that we are descendants of the ancient storyteller who used to light a fire and get the tribe around him or her and comfort them in the night, tell them very reassuring, beautiful stories so that they would have the confidence to know that the night would pass, the sun would come up again. And I'm sure in our DNA that both Patty and I are distant descendants from the healer, shaman, storyteller. I'm sure we are. And certainly, I think we're aware that you drop a pebble into the water and the ripples can be extraordinary. I don't think we strive to do that. but I think it comes with the job. Would you agree?
Yes, but I have to say, sir, what you just said made the whole 9 years, that journey, worth it.
Hi, Patty.
Hi.
This film clearly has been a very long coming goal for you, and now that you've finally achieved it, I was just wondering if there's some other project that you feel just as passionate about that is next on the list.
Yes, I do. I have another long journey of a film. My next journey is to make a movie about this fabulous woman from the 30s, 40s, 50s, named Tallulah Bankhead. If you don't know who she is, Google her. She was quite a character, a brilliant, funny woman, a great actress, and she really defined the word joie de vivre, and she broke all the boundaries and broke all the rules in Hollywood. She's just someone I've wanted to play, and you have to have a very deep voice. and I'm pretty much there. And so it's just she's a woman that fascinates me. She was omnivorous and carnivorous. She wanted everything in life and every person, male, female. I'm looking forward to, that's the next journey. It's a beautiful script. I'm in the process of getting that together and to make that.
Very cool. Thank you.
Please say, hopefully it won't be 9 years.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both so much. Thank you both so much for joining us today, and I hope everyone enjoys the film very much.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you.